Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I'm your host Josiah, aka Mauler67, and with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Hey man, I'm doing okay. Man, what a week, dude. Like, I had VTM this week. Had to do like plots for that, and then like I got back and I don't know what happened, man. I didn't exist today. I went to bed at like 2 in the morning. Once I got back, woke up at like 8 a.m. and I was like, oh, I guess I'm up. I guess that's all I need. So I got up, start playing some like Deadlock, because it's officially out now. You can talk about it now because it's officially out, or announced at least. Played that for a bit, and then I just got like, oh, maybe I should lay down or whatever around like 3 o'clock. I proceeded to watch the rest of Umbrella Academy because I needed to finish the last 2 episodes. I try to save like one episode for Saturday or for Sunday. That way I watch the finale fresh in my head, so whenever I talk about it, I can be more like cognitive of the last episode. And then next thing I know, I pass out after I finish it. I start watching Whose Line Is It Anyway, pass out, wake up to 7 o'clock and being like, I wanted to take like a 30-minute nap and get back up and keep playing games. I didn't realize I was so tired that it forced me to sleep an additional 3 hours. So, yeah, what a week, man. What a week. Did that. Yeah, that's been my week in a nutshell, man.
Yeah.
How about you, man?
Oh man, some crazy week stuff. Just this week's been kind of just getting ready, preparing, because I start like my new semester in school tomorrow. So like I've been getting all my stuff ready, like my books and all this other stuff. And then on top of that, sorry. On top of that, I've been so busy to a point where, I'll be working and then I'll have to get up early and I'll have to go do stuff. And last night, my buddy Mikey called me on Wednesday. It was like, hey man, we're doing like a bonfire for my birthday. I would really appreciate you being there. So I was like, all right. So I drove about an hour and a half yesterday, all the way up to Kent, Ohio. And I hung out with him until about 10, and then he was like, hey man, you should stay. And I'm like, no man, like I gotta be at work at 8 a.m. So I drove back down, and then I went to bed, and I woke up and went into work today. And then I was like, oh man, I'm so tired. I'm gonna go and take a nap, and I laid down, and then all of a sudden I get a text from my buddy, and he's like, hey man, you're my girlfriend is wanting to like eat like here in town. Would you like to meet her? And I was like, yeah. So I went and hung out with them and had lunch, and then when I came back I was like, man, I am really tired. So I went to lay back down again, and then my wife shows up and she's like, hey, the groceries are here, can you help me put them away? And I was like, oh yeah. And so I got up and I started doing that, and I was like, I'm gonna go lay down. And she's like, okay. And she was like, is it cool if we get pizza? I was like, yeah, go ahead. So she got pizza, and I passed out like hard. And I woke up probably at 7 o'clock. Yeah, I woke up at 7 o'clock. So I ended up sleeping from 5:30 to 7:30 or 7. So
we had the same sleep schedule.
Yeah. So I just need to catch up on sleep. Like I was like getting fatigued and tired, and but I woke up and then I was like, ooh, pizza. And then I ate, and then I was like, oh man, dude, it's almost time for the podcast. Luckily, I already got finished with the show really early this week. So didn't have to do anything except for, just show up now. But yeah, that was pretty much what I did this week and today. So
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I'm glad that you had that. I'm glad you finally got some sleep. Hopefully that won't make it that you can't go to sleep tonight, because that's how it normally goes with me. I take a nap. If I take a nap longer than intended, I'll be up till like 12 p.m. that night, 1 a.m., and then I have to wake up at 5 the next day. So life is life in those regards, but hopefully you don't have that. All right, man. Well, speaking about clusterfuck, no, I'm kidding. Austin, this week we watched Umbrella Academy season 4. This is the final season of a show that I think I made you watch initially.
Yeah.
It was on Umbrella. It was on Umbrella Netflix. And the funny thing about it, right, is I don't think you were huge on it. Like you're like, it's good, it's fine. But each season it kept going like, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like it. I like this. I like this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this season made me kind of this did not invoke joy. This did not invoke joy. I talked with my one friend, or my one friend posted on Facebook, about it, and she basically said like everything up till season 5, episode 5 was okay, and then 5 and 6 destroyed everything. Which is exactly how Game of Thrones went out with the seasons. Everything was good until around season 5, and then it all went downhill after that. Umbrella Academy just didn't do episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin, what did you think of Umbrella Academy?
I have a big complaint about this, where I actually enjoyed the first 3 episodes. I actually enjoyed, the first couple episodes of this season. But man, I think, I hate to say it, but I think maybe 8 episodes would have been justified with the show. Because usually it was 8 episodes every month. I mean, every season. So every season they had 8 episodes. Now it's down to 6 episodes. So you're cutting off 2 episodes, especially on a series finale. Gave me the vibe of Game of Thrones, because the final season of Game of Thrones was cut down a lot.
The difference between Game of Thrones and this is that Game of Thrones was cut down due to the directors not caring and wanting it to continue, and they thought they could do it in 6. This season very much felt and seemed like it was being affected by the writer strike that happened. And I don't know if they cut it down to only like 6 episodes because of the fact that the writer strike happened, or if it was cut down to 6 episodes because they're like, oh no, we don't have the time to keep the writers on, so finish up quicker.
Yeah.
It just,
I don't know. It for me, it ruined it. It ruined it because it felt like the story was rushed, for one, but also there was a lot of character development that they've been building throughout these seasons, and they kind of just went like that. They just went. They didn't really care. But the ending itself ruined it for me too, where I was like, why go? I get what you're going at, but also too is it didn't help anything. It kind of just made it like it was like, well, let's make it this ending. And I kind of knew the ending to begin with. Like after they started stating everything in episode 4, I was like, oh, I know.
After season 2, you should have knew what the ending was.
Yeah.
Because I think I repeatedly said in the second, whenever we watched the second season, now I'm like, God, they're always the reason for the apocalypse to happen. They are the reason for the apocalypse to happen. So if they would just like not exist, everything would be fine. So I have issue with this season for 2 gaps, right? Like the whole lead up to the reveal for like episode 5 and 6 about them being like, oh no, it's us. Like, I'm not even going to go into the whole like Lila X5 problem, because I was very upset with that. But like the whole functionality of the first 3 seasons was that they were repeatedly going through time and messing up the timeline, right?
Yeah.
Then season 3 came in and they're like, hey, we are essentially resetting the timeline, the universe, essentially, with this. With the introduction of the like multiverse of like split time zones, all because of them, that completely nullifies everything they did in those first 3 seasons. Because they never changed anything, they just went to different timelines. And like even in the season, 5 goes to the timeline where Vanya, or it's Vanya in the first season, but it's Victor later, destroys the world. So they didn't fix that timeline. That timeline still exists. They just left it. Yeah. And that nullifies everything they did in the first season, all the like pain and stress, which also shows that that's not the original Victor either. That is the original team, different Victor, original team minus Luthor. Like, there's so many, like, because of the whole multiverse, like, setting they tried to do there, they nullified everything of that.
Yeah.
And then, like, the whole concept of, like, oh, we're the reason why the universe is split and everything. Like, no, you guys aren't. It's Reginald. He's the one who releases it. You all can exist. Reginald shouldn't. You have to go back and kill him. Like, that should have been the more prominent ending. They should have went back in time and killed their father before he released the Marigold, and then they destroyed the Marigold. Yeah. And that would have solved all that issue without them needing to kill themselves in a weird, like, monster setup for some reason. Like, the explanation for, like, the what'd they freaking call the anti-Marigold stuff?
I forget what it was called.
I forget what it's called too, but like the whole setup for that makes no freaking sense.
It doesn't.
It's like, oh, it's like anti this, it like destroys Marigold and everything. It's like Marigold was already in the universe beforehand. How come in this world you introducing Marigold destroys the unit, like the multiverse continuum? But before, when their planet was destroyed, I can understand planets being destroyed being an issue. Why isn't their world like causing multi-dimensional stuff? They don't go into that. They don't even want to explain it. Also, the reasoning for Reginald's wife, I forget her name, the mom character, to destroy the world is the dumbest thing to me. She's like, I have to fix what you did wrong by introducing this. I'm like, wait, so you're saying that you died and that's how it should have been? So because you're alive, you're going to murder everyone on the world and planet just to let you die again? Like, that makes no freaking sense. Like, this was very much a like nihilistic season finale that was just fumbled in my head. I'm like, it just completely degrades, or not, it degrades the previous seasons, which I liked. I liked the previous seasons. All for this like ending of like they have to kill themselves to save everyone. Like, you could have came up with a better reason for that. Just, it always feels like what do you call it? Like that saying, like the journey is more important than the end. It feels like the whole time they were fighting so hard to live and survive and be together, and then the end is just like, yeah, we're not allowed to be, so we're just gonna kill ourselves.
Just accepting it.
We're the issue, and I'm just like, what the.
Well, also, I think also the storyline with 5.
Yeah,
like the Victor, like 5, and the whole Diego wife thing. Like, I just was like, I rolled my eyes. I was like, that does not make sense. Especially because like 5 already had that love of his life. I forget her name. Was it like Dorothy or something like that? Mannequin?
Yeah, he had
whatever.
He had the mannequin that he loved, which I'm over here being like, oh no, we got trapped in this I'm like, wait, I don't know if they said it and I missed it or whatever, but like, he used his powers to go to that area. Then they were trying to find the way to go back and fix the issue, and they're like, oh no, we wasted 7 years of our life doing this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I thought Victor I thought 5 just had to like warp out, like, you know, blink out back to the real reality, because that's how he fixed it the first time. Yeah. Are you telling me that like you guys didn't do that and you guys just chose to be in that for 7 years, and then like she's over here being like, I want to see my like my family again. I want to go home. I want to go home. And they're just like, nah, we're gonna keep searching. Like, I must have missed something there, because that was a really dumb reason to stay in that time loop if you just want to fix it. And you both were kind of like, I just kind of want to go home, like, and go home. I was just confused by that.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Most of the season was just, I felt like it was a little rushed.
Yeah, it was.
At the last 2 episodes, and it didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. There was some great pieces, and they had a killer cast this season too, because they brought in Ron Swanson,
Nick Offerman, not Ron Swanson.
Nick Offerman. Well, Nick Offerman. That's right. I always get him mixed up with Ron Swanson.
Well, because that's his
Ron
character.
Swanson's his character that everyone knows him from. But yeah, Nick Offerman. David Cross was in this. Yeah. I was so excited when I saw David Cross. I was like, wow, David Cross.
Wow.
I love David Cross.
He's friends with Saul Goodman.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Oh, that's a show that we should actually do too. I think that would be a good show for this.
What?
The show. It's with David Cross.
And, the show. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you meant like Better Call Saul. And I was like,
wait a minute, we've already done that. No. It's with Bill Odenkirk and him, David Cross. So.
Yeah, it's their little like sketch comedy.
Yeah, because like there was a really good episode this season that I really enjoyed, and it was the episode where they actually go to the town and they try to find that Jennifer girl, and that whole set piece of them like fighting and people having machine guns and everything. They're like killing all these people. I thought it was great. I enjoyed every minute of that episode. And I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good so far. But then, how one episode can just make things fall. It's like a big wall, and it has like a ton of bricks, and you pull one thing and you pull another, and then it just falls. And that's exactly how I felt with the last 2 episodes of the show, where I feel like if they justified them killing themselves a little bit better, like maybe an all-around arc, because the other thing that I didn't really care for, which doesn't make sense to me at all, is when they take their families and they put them on that train and then moves them to another thing. I was like, wait, if you do not exist,
I said the same thing, where she's like, Mom, I don't want to forget you. It's like, it's okay, we're being removed from the timeline, you won't exist. Like, I mean, that's like a super nihilistic thing to say to a kid, but yeah, it's 100% true. See, that's my issue that I have with the end of the season, because they basically got told like, oh, we are the issue, and it's like, no, it's the Marigold that's the issue.
Yeah,
like you're legitly misunderstanding that it's you all, and Vanya can pull the Marigold out of you. She's done it, or not Vanya, Victor. He's done it. He has pulled out the Marigold from people. You all need to have him pull it out from you, and then you throw that to the monster, and that solves all the issues. You all can still exist as is. Theoretically, Austin, here's the thing. Theoretically, the beginning of this season should have fixed the issue.
Yeah.
Because none of them had the Marigold. The Marigold didn't exist. It just magically came into the world at some point.
Well, and he was like, oh, you miss your powers and stuff, and he sneaks it in like the Sokka or whatever. And I kind of felt that was a little like cheesy in a way. I was like, oh, okay, but I mean, it is what it is.
I'll say the whole like van sequence with them driving to the place and the Baby Shark song going all over, and then them like throwing up and whatnot. I'm like, okay, this is
get a little.
This is too much now, right? Like it's not even like gross or whatever. It's more of just like, okay, I get the joke. Like, move past it. I still like really liked Luther's interactions with everyone. He kind of became like the dunce character, especially in like season 1. Like he was a little better, and then after that he kind of became the dunce character. But I like that in this season he's the only one who snuffs out about the CIA being like a plant type deal thing, and then like Django's just like, no one can take that from you, buddy. He's like, yeah. I enjoyed that. Diego became the new dunce character in this season, which I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they changed powers a little bit. Like everyone likes powers is a little differently than what they were, and they never
they got like
explain it.
a power up. They got like
Some
a
of them did,
power up.
some of them didn't. You know,
Yeah.
like Klaus didn't get a power up. He just got his old power back. I thought it would have been funny if their powers were swapped around. That's what I thought they were going to do with them all drinking randomly, is that their powers were based upon the marigold, not on them. So the powers were going to be swapped, and you were going to get a lot of cool like interactions between people to see like, oh, this is what you've been dealing with. I'm sorry. I thought when they had Klaus and the rumor, I forget her name all the time, together, I thought their powers were going to be swapped. The rumor was going to get the ability to see dead, and then he was going to get the ability to just like lie to people and whisper to people and get whatever they want. And then they were going to see like, she's like, man, I understand why you tried so hard to be sober and why you freak out so much, because this is debilitating. And he's like, I know why you can't trust it yourself and why you put yourself in bad situation. I thought that's what they were going to go with. And then they did. They just like, nope, everyone gets their powers back. It's all based upon the person, not upon the power. I'm like, man, I feel like they missed something there. But
They did. Like, that's a huge thing that I would say that should have been. Like, that sounds like a great idea for, and I think it would also be an overarching thing where it would be like, hey, you know, we've all understand as a family now.
Yeah, we all
a little
understand
bit better about each other. You know, because the whole thing through the whole, I remember watching it. I don't remember most of the seasons, but I do remember the biggest theme was this family. You know, this dysfunctional family, but it was just dysfunctional. That's all it was this season. Like, I felt like,
well, it was dysfunctional because of their upbringing, like how they were brought up, and that was Reginald doing. Like, he made them all. I did like, the one thing I did like is the fact that they realized that Ben was murdered by their dad.
Yeah.
And like his dad got removed, and they're like yelling at the Reginald of this world, and he's like, I'm not your Reginald, like, stop yelling at me. And he's like, but he removed our memories. Like, well, that does sound like something I would do.
I would do. Yeah.
Like, that made me laugh. Like, I was like, yeah, no, he acknowledges that he's like, you know, no, this is the right thing to do. I also find it really funny that like the wife's whole like concept to him at the end was, you don't let anyone else make a decision, and you like, it's your way or the highway type deal thing. And then the one time he lets someone else make a decision, he dooms the world. And so I'm like, your point's kind of a mute point here, girl, because you're like, you always force everyone to do what you say, and then the one time he doesn't, the world's destroyed. And what was your plan? Your plan was just to make him choose not to do that? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand that. I don't get it. I was so confused by that. It's just, there was just little things here and there that really kind of annoyed me, but like, I still like all the characters. I still like the guy who plays Klaus. I think Klaus is still my favorite character. The whole like him becoming a germaphobe, I felt kind of was weird, but that being like an offsuit of him trying to be really clean and sober, kind of makes sense to me. I just felt like the germaphobe aspect wasn't necessary, but him not doing like sake or anything like that perfectly makes sense.
Yeah, because like that was like the number one thing when I watched the first episode, where like, you know, I was like, well, he didn't drink it. If he's sober and he wants to stay that way, he's not gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll take one shot. And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. I knew like instantly that he didn't take that. But then once he got shot, I was like, there it is. That's the key that they're going to do, to be like, hey, you know, you're dying, here you go. And it's like, yep, I kind of knew that was gonna happen.
You know, also they never a plot point they forgot about, he threw that behind him and it hit someone, and then I'm like, oh wait, so the marigold's the issue. What about that marigold, right? Like, is that marigold just gone in the world now? because Reginald released the marigold and it was like dust in the wind and it went to people. That marigold probably got absorbed onto that guy, right? Like, that was, I thought, a plot point they were setting up, that there was going to be an additional person they had to find. But then I don't know if they forgot, or I guess they just didn't want to even look into that.
That, and I also got a little upset. There was something that happened this season that I just kept rolling my eyes at, was the whole cleanse thing. Okay, so I forget what their character's name was, but
Jean
the
Jean.
girl, Jean and Jean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jean and Jean and their mob and these people that are trying to guard the cleanse.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that multiple people sneak in past these guys and get into the building where, you know.
Well, to be fair, only one person snuck in and they had to murder someone. That guy didn't call for backup for some reason. And then everyone else, they just teleport in. The thing I will give you, though, is the fact that they're shooting at the van, trying to murder these people, like the kids. Then they teleport in, and the people outside just kind of forgot they existed.
Yeah.
Like, the mom's there, she knows they have powers. Why would she not be like, we have to check inside?
Yeah.
And I agree. It was kind of like a dumb point.
It was a really dumb point that they were all there to protect the whole cleanse thing, and I was like, okay, doesn't make sense. But also, too, is I can't really get past the point of, you know, when one of them started like glowing, like transforming glowing, like when they were making out. Don't you think one of them would be? Yeah. Don't you think one of them would look and be like, "Hey, why are we glowing? Like, why are you that way?" And then it's like,
they kind of like explain that away. Like, once the marigold and the other stuff kind of like connected, it just kind of took over their sensory thoughts, and all they wanted to do was just connect and like combine.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that was like the whole thing with him, is like Ben was like essentially like yelling at Victor, like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And he's like, you gotta get away from her. And he's like, no, I can't leave her. I can't leave her. Like, I very much believe it was like the two chemicals essentially were combining, and it was causing this mutation, but he couldn't fight that connection. That's what my understanding was, at least. I don't know if that's 100% right, but that's why I took it as.
Yeah, I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way a little bit with that, because I was like, well, this doesn't make sense, because if I would think one of them would say something about it, but they didn't.
Someone should have said something. I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know. I felt like that, but also I also felt that like some of the plot points, like I really didn't like I did not like Klaus's like side story thing. I did not really care for that at all.
I mean, I didn't like the fact that he was basically being sold as a sex slave.
Well,
that was rough.
The thing that I laughed at, like I physically laughed at, was the part where he had a lighter in the coffin.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of that being like that, I don't think that's correct, because I think that they've done like a Mythbusters episode on that, and how much air or oxygen would be in that box, and it wouldn't light because there's no oxygen to it.
Yeah.
But also too is I felt like, you know, because Klaus is immortal, right? He's he can't die.
He can't die, yeah.
Which doesn't make sense to me at all. But
it's his power. We'll go past that.
But there's a part where like he incinerates his foot like in the box, and it's just like this little it's fine. I was like, well, that fire looked like it could have engulfed the whole thing. Like, I don't understand, because the effects that they used on that shot, it looked like it would like engulf him completely, and it just kind of was like shh, and I was like, that's spreading, and then it just stopped, and I was like, that doesn't make sense at all. I was like, if someone explains to me why this is that way, because you're allowing fire in a coffin anyways. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really a big fan of that. I don't know.
Sorry.
And I also wasn't a fan of the part where she actually goes in to try to find Klaus, and she gets hit in the head or whatever, and then she can't use her powers, and then all of a sudden she can just use her powers again. Like,
yeah, she was a little dazed. I can understand that. They have to like,
Yeah, but the thing is
tweaking
like
her for a second to make it kind of scary.
I thought they were also. I will say this. I will give them a dib on this. Is I thought they were gonna like steal her away and be like, haha, we got her, you know, and then like he was putting her into like some type of slavery thing too.
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were gonna do with it, but then they're like, oh no, we solved it. But I don't know. I felt like that was a little cheap to me. Like I just felt like, oh well, she was just hit. She's trying to use her powers multiple times. And
my biggest thing is like to the guy, like I don't think he realized what her power was, because he's like, oh, we'll hook you up and you'll be like the new attraction, whatever. I'm like, bro, she doesn't even have to like wait for you. Like the second you walk in that door, she just blows you up essentially, and then just walks out. Like the dude has no idea what this person's power was. I don't even understand how the heck he knew Klaus could like commune with dead people, right? So I initially thought whenever Klaus came back to life in front of him, I thought what the guy was going to do for Klaus, like his payment, was going to get like people to come in who want to kill someone but is afraid to do it, and then they basically just come in and just get to murder Klaus however they want, and then Klaus just comes back to life, and then they pay him like $20,000. And then the next person comes in, it's like, I've always wanted to kill someone. It's like, cool, this person can't die. Have at it. Like, that's what I thought. And instead they're like, no, he's a medium. Like, what made that guy think he's a medium? Like, did I miss something there? I didn't understand that. I totally understood the concept of like, oh, freaking there's sick people in the world who want to kill someone, but are too afraid because of like laws and like moral standings. But if you give them the option to kill someone who can't die, they would do some really messed up things. I'm like, that makes sense for like an underworld belly dude to do. But I guess like, I don't know, maybe I'm sick in the head and that was a bad thing. But like, I would, my brain
I totally
goes
agree.
into like the whole idea of like, of like contacting dead people so they can have sex with you. That like seems but both of those seem like very bad things.
No, I seriously did not care for that storyline one bit. I did not care. I was like, well, this is just a waste of time. In my opinion, pretty much a waste of time. But I don't know. Most of this season was pretty much a waste of time, in my opinion, just because how it ends and how it kind of just deals with it. I did not like the ending one bit, especially when they all decide to sacrifice themselves. The last thing, like them having their last like talk together, really just got to me. I rolled my eyes so many times because, you know, it's like it was like, have you ever like watched a show or like a comedy sketch and it's like, I'm gonna die now, before I go. Like, you know, it kind of felt like that to me, because, you know, all of them were like, oh, it's coming.
Like, oh no, it hurts. I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry about this.
That you guys are assholes. And I'm like, oh man, just die already. Like, if this is happening. But I did not like the concept of them having to like kill themselves for that.
I didn't understand that. I felt like the marigold itself, they set up the whole plot of like, Victor is able to remove the marigold. Why couldn't he remove the marigold and then they throw it at the monster? It solves the issue. It's done. Yeah. I just feel like that was like a writing plot that they maybe had, and then because of like time restraints or money constraint, they just, I don't know, they like pulled it and they're like, make it simpler. They just die. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then, you know, I didn't like that the 5 conflict with like Victor at all. I mean, with Diego. Like, no, it tried to veer like that point towards the end of that episode is like, I love you, that's why we're doing it. And like, and then also it sets up like, hey, those characters we should take them to the subway. And I'm like, this is just dumb. They were trying to like do a last ditch effort, and I think it was because they didn't know what to do with 5. They felt like he didn't have like a very set up for like a romantic type deal thing.
It's not even that. I think it was much more the idea that it's like 5 in every single season has been the one who just fixes the issue.
Yeah.
Like, his powers is the thing that fixes the issues because he's a time warp person, right? Outside of, I think, season 3 and didn't really fix the issue, but he caused stuff. I think the whole reason why they put the family on the train was so that way they could exist in the good timeline. Because effectively, like this is my understanding of why they did that, right? The characters didn't know why they did that, but writers essentially are like, oh, if they reset the timeline, the family all gets reset too. But if the family is outside of the timeline in the little train system, when the reset occurs, they'll get sent to the original timeline because there's only one timeline left. And I think that's why they exist, is because that's why they did it. And so it's like, oh yeah, this place is utopia. Why? Just because 7 people don't exist.
No.
But apparently also Reginald and his wife doesn't exist either, because Reginald would have been like causing havoc to get his wife back. But we'll forget about that. Just the people, the kids, they're dead. Like, that's all good. Everything's good now.
Dead.
Everything's fine.
Everyone's dead. I just felt like it wasn't like it wasn't no sign of hope. It wasn't anything that was like, hey, they died for a good cause.
No, it's a nihilistic ending. Like that's all it is. And that, I think that's why I was so upset, because all the other seasons was this concept of like, oh, death and like destruction may happen, but as long as we are together, we can solve it. And then this season essentially just said, even if we're together, we shouldn't exist and we can't solve this, so we all just die and everything will be fine. Like, that's super nihilistic and kind of ruins the other seasons to me. Like, absolutely. And that makes me really upset. And I saw like a TikTok of a girl like watching the episode, and then like they teleport at the end of the first season, and then she like turns it off and she's like, and they all survived and that was the end. I'm like, yeah, kind of like
someone should make
seasons I like.
Someone should make like that TikTok trend of like Woody's Roundup.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
I think that's exactly
2.
the joke that they did there. Yeah.
All right, next season. No, it finished there. It finished there.
It got canceled after that.
And it sucks too, because that was a show that everyone was excited for. I remember, I'm not a fan of the comic book, actually. I'm not a real fan of the graphic novel that they have of the Umbrella Academy, just because it wasn't my style. But when I started watching, you made me watch the show, I was like, okay, you know, maybe I'll like the show. It's okay. Like, it's nothing that like I'm like, wow, this is great. Like, I have to watch the next season. But I could, you know, it like a bummer. Like, when I watched this season, I felt really bad for you, because I was like, man, he really actually enjoys this show. He told me that multiple times, and I was like, man, I just don't know. And I was like, maybe he might like the ending. You never know. You know, because our opinions on stuff change. But I was
liked the character is the biggest thing I'll say. It was the characters.
Yeah.
The characters were the best part, and that's why I had no issue with this season until the last 2 episodes, where they tried to like resolve everything, and they effectively said like, your enjoyment of these characters has to end because they need to die. I'm like, I don't like that. Don't do that. Why you do that? That's how these corporations kind of go. Like, that's how these shows kind of end. Sometimes you get good ones, sometimes you get bad ones, sometimes you relive the dread of Game of Thrones season 8.
Oh man, we're already getting that with House of Dragon.
No, I have hope for that still. All right, Austin.
No.
I think that basically ends for this episode. I think we talked to death. We kind of talked really negative about the show. The legacy of the show I very much enjoy. This season I just did not like it as much. The more we sat here and talked, the more we picked apart more things that I didn't realize, that I'm like, yeah, no, that's not okay with me. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But the characters were the best part, and I enjoyed the characters for who they were and what they were throughout the season, and that is why I like it. But Austin, next week is your week to pick. You picked Batman Caped Crusader. You told me that it was like, we're going to watch the Caped Crusader. I'm like, oh, okay. It's by the people who did Batman. Oh, okay. Oh, it's just straight up Batman. Austin. Just say we're going to watch the Batman TV show on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
So it's the same people that did the Batman animated series from the 90s. And this is on Amazon Prime. So perfect for anyone that has Amazon. But it is, I've watched some of it, and I love it. So
all right.
I was like, man, you know, Josiah loves it. You know, you love animation.
I'm an animation fan, but
you know, one of my favorite shows growing up was the Batman animated series. Like I will constantly watch it all the time. It's so well done, especially when you have like, you know, Mark Hamill as Joker, you know, and Kevin Conroy as Batman. You know, it's just really well done. And this one is kind of set in the 50s. Okay. This Batman is, so it's a different take on it. But I was like, okay, well, I've heard like great rave reviews from everyone that's like, this is so great, you'll love it. So I was like, well, that's something I'm gonna have to watch, because there's a lot of stuff coming up here soon. That is a lot of animation that is coming out that I was like, man. And there, you know, I was just talking about an animation show the other like this week actually that I haven't watched in a long time. And I'll probably make you do it here on the podcast like sooner or later, you know. So, and right now we have like a little small window until like something else finishes. So, you know, this will be perfect. This is one season, then you'll be able to pick something, and then we'll go from there. So.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it sounds good, Austin. I'm excited to watch it. It's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
All right, cool. I have that. All right. Well, Austin, thank you so much for joining us for this evening, and thank you all so much for joining us for this week. Next week we'll do Batman Keeper Series Season 1. So thank you all so much for stopping by, and thank you all so much for tuning in.